Welcome to the Tales of the Realm, a series where we recount the great many tales from the world of Final Fantasy XIV. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the complete story of the Warring Triad, a series of trials introduced as patches for the Heavensward expansion, each one featuring a battle with a legendary icon. Like many things in Final Fantasy XIV, the Warring Triad is based on something from the franchise's rich history, and in this case, they are based on the three gods from Final Fantasy VI, which were also referred to as the Warring Triad, or Santoushin. The three warring gods, each one keeping the others in check. Visually, they were designed by Tetsuya Nomura, and it's great to see those same designs making a return here, even though their backstory has of course been updated to fit the lore of Final Fantasy XIV. If you're like me, however, you might not have been paying enough attention to fully grasp the story or the lore, so this video is for me, and you, and the Final Fantasy XIV community at large, so that we can continue to enjoy and celebrate the many tales the game has to tell. I'm Peter from Birds of Play, and if you end up liking the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out some more of our other complete story videos. But for now, let us revisit the Gods of Eld. Having received a summons from a mysterious stranger, the Warrior of Light returns to the Solar of the Rising Stones, where he is greeted by a masked boy, who introduces himself as Unukalhai. He proceeds to alert the warrior to the rising threat of beings known as eikons, which he clarifies are not the primals the warrior has become so well acquainted with so far. Rather, the term eikon, and the beings to which it refers, dates back to the days of the Allagan Empire, the Garleans having adopted the term as they continue to attempt to emulate the glory of ancient Allag. At this time, Urianger makes an unannounced appearance and takes over the explanation. It appears that the Warring Triad, three eikons sealed within the etherochemical research facility on Aziz La, are threatening to break free. Their bindings have been severely weakened by Archbishop Thordan's attempt to acquire the power of Aziz La. Unukalhai warns that the Warring Triad is stirring, and insists that the time to move against them has come. The Warrior of Light rendezvouses with Unukalhai at Aziz La, where they are joined by Ishtola, Urianger, and Kryl. Unukalhai informs them that the icon closest to awakening is the icon known as Sephiroth, otherwise known by the historians of Allag as the Fiend. He was once the patron deity to a tribe of tree-like beings native to Mericidia, the first sacred tree to be elevated by the belief of its worshippers, but was subdued by the Allagan Empire after a lengthy war of attrition. After his defeat, Sephiroth was imprisoned to be used as a source of power, his mind bound in a dream, while his body's energies continue to be harnessed by Allagan technologies. The explanation for his failure to dissipate into ether lies in his restraints, the ingenious devices designed not only to bind him, but also to continuously regenerate his corporeal form. In order to banish the icon, they must therefore divide their forces, with one team locating the controls to Sephiroth's shackles in order to disable them, while the other stands ready to destroy him at the moment of his awakening. Being blessed with the Echo, it falls to Kryl to disable the restraints, while the Warrior of Light makes ready to engage the wrathful god as he awakens from a millennia of dream-bound servitude. The Warrior of Light fulfills his duty and fells the towering Sephiroth before returning to the others atop the flagship in Aziz La. They share a brief moment of celebration, but as they leave, Unukalhai senses someone, forcing Regula van Hydrus, legatus of the 6th Legion, to reveal himself. Upon having been discovered, Van Hydrus withdraws, but as Kryl questions Unukalhai about what kept him, he claims it was nothing of consequence. Back at the Rising Stones, Urianger compliments the Warrior of Light on his victory, but advises him to marshal his strength before contemplating confronting the Warring Triad's two remaining icons. Given the Garleans' appetite for Allagan technology, however, Unukalhai warns that they may not have the luxury of time, tiring of the masked youth's portentous utterances, Kryl then challenges Unukalhai to reveal his identity and that of his master, but finds the boy wholly unwilling to eschew his veil of secrecy. Later, they receive word that Imperial forces have dispelled the ward placed by Urianger, which barred entry to the etherochemical research facility, forcing them to make haste to the flagship in Azizla once more. Outside the facility, the Warrior of Light is joined by fellow Scions, and Urianger expresses puzzlement at the apparent ease with which the Imperial forces dispelled the ward. Unukalhai, however, is in no mood to explore this mystery, instead urging them to seize the opportunity to eliminate the intruders and prevent Van Hydrus from escaping with the Genesis expression, an etherochemical formula of particular concern that allowed the scholars of yore to create substance from nothingness. Y'shtola wonders where Unukalhai came by such information, but all Unukalhai can disclose is that his knowledge on the matter comes from his enigmatic master. The Warrior of Light carves his way through the forces of the 6th Legion in pursuit of Van Hydrus, and succeeds in halting the legatus mere steps from the tomelith containing his prize. Cursing the obstinate meddling by the Scions, Van Hydrus reluctantly retreats, though Urianger suspects he will be back before long. Safely outside the facility once more, Urianger accuses Unukalhai of sabotaging his ward by using the power of the Echo and luring the legatus into a trap by providing him with information about the Genesis expression. As Unukalhai is unable to refute the Archon's reasoning, the boy finally admits to setting a trap for the 6th Legion. Back at the Rising Stones, Unukalhai tries to justify his uncharacteristically rash behavior by speaking of a star which met its end through the abuse of primal energies. This, he claims, is why it is imperative that those who would use primal harnessing technologies are stopped by any means necessary. The next time the Warrior of Light is summoned by Unukalhai, the boy tells him that etheric readings taken by Y'shtola in the aftermath of the 6th Legion recent intrusion indicate that the eikon Sophia, the goddess, is close to awakening. No sooner have they returned to Azizla that the ground begins to rumble with the sound of a nearby battle. In the next moment, a breathless Kryl appears and announces that Y'shtola and Urianger have engaged an unknown band of assailants. They hurry to their aid and find a trio of strangers whom they determine to be thralls of the eikon Sophia. Though they do not linger long, they leave the party with the words of an ominous prophecy, and the fear that their mistress may already have awoken in possession of all her terrible might. As time is of the essence, the Warrior of Light makes ready, and together with his band of fellow adventurers, is able to banish Sophia into the ether. Following the victory over the goddess, Y'shtola muses on the reason for her rapid awakening, a question to which Unukalhai and Kryl soon provide an answer. According to the investigation, the eikon enslaved the will of a careless Gallian soldier and commanded him to release her thralls. Allagan records also speak of a failed plot to exploit a flaw introduced into the machinery of Sophia's prison at the end of the 3rd Astral Era, a scheme that came dangerously close to being enacted millennia later. But now, all that remains of the goddess is the haunting thought of what might have come to pass had the goddess been suffered to escape her fetters. Urianger extracts a lesson from this tale, the moral being that the Allegans were foolish to place their trust in technological bondage, or to shackle such beings is but to delay the inevitable, and that only their total destruction is capable of freeing the world from their menace. Before returning to the Rising Stones, Unukalhai sneaks off from the rest of the group and deactivates the stasis chambers that have been keeping Sophia's remaining thralls alive. Back in Revenant's Toll, Y'shtola confronts Unukalhai about deactivating the stasis chambers, and the masked youth admits to his actions, telling them the true purpose of these prisons was far more horrifying than first assumed, them being prototypes which paved the way for the successful construction of Dalamut, an artificial celestial body, making them the seeds of 3 calamities that must not come to pass. Believing the destruction of the goddess's slumbering thralls to be a task unbefitting of one such as the Warrior of Light, Unukalhai took it upon himself to perform the deed. Ishtola berates the masked youth for concealing information from them, but in the end they agree that the last pillar of the Warring Triad must fall, and that only with its destruction will the world finally be free of the existential threat posed by Aziz La. Unukalhai informs the Warrior of Light that the Scions have begun a search inside Aziz La's research facility, seeking to locate the thralls responsible for maintaining the manifestation of the last remaining eikon of the Warring Triad. After arriving on Aziz La with Unukalhai, the warriors met with disturbing news that an Imperial force once more occupies the facility. As Urianger ponders the inefficacy of his words, Van Hydrus approaches the party and explains the reason for the magic's failure: a pulse of power from the soon-to-awaken Zurvan, the demon of the Warring Triad. The legatus quickly describes the dire situation and urges the champion of the Scions to join him and his troops in preventing the demon's thralls from rousing their master. After destroying the devices feeding ether to the stirring Zurvan, the eikon is returned to a fitful slumber. But the temporary victory is not without a cost, since in an unexpected act of heroism, Van Hydrus is struck down and defends an overmatched Unukalhai. With his dying breath, the legatus bids them to slay the demon and his followers. Thanks to Van Hydrus' sacrifice, the Scions are afforded a chance to strike at a weakened Zurvan. So after gathering a company of capable warriors, the demon is ushered into oblivion. With the fall of Zurvan, the cataclysmic threat of the Warring Triad has at last been expunged. But as the Scions sing the praises of Van Hydrus' final heroic act, Unukalhai agonizes over his own inadequate strength. Back at the Rising Stones, Unukalhai removes his mask and proceeds to reveal not only his features, but also the truth behind his origins. He speaks of his birth on a different star, and of how that world became what is now known as the Void. Though born with the power of the Echo, Unukalhai describes how he was yet too young to contend with the forces that brought such ruination, and of how a sudden shift in the balance between light and dark can consign an entire world to oblivion. His spirit was snatched into the safety of the rift by his present master, Elidibus, the white-robed Asian whom he has served ever since. At his mentor's feet did he learn of the nature of reality and the existence of mirrored worlds, engulfed in the eternal struggle between dark and light. The sudden and overwhelming superiority of either side shattering the balance, returning the world in question to the void by a calamity beyond questioning. As the self-appointed custodian of this balance, Elidibus further warned him that the source, the first of all worlds, slips perilously close to oblivion. Unukalhai explains that he came to this world determined to prevent the realm from suffering a similar fate, but that he is no hero. Urianger, however, elucidates that it is not believing oneself to be a hero that makes one worthy of such a title, but rather the deeds themselves which earn one a hero's mantle. And now that Unukalhai walks along the Scions of the Seventh Dawn and the Warrior of Light, he may just yet become the hero he was destined to be. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and slap that like button if you want to support the creation of more retellings of Final Fantasy XIV stories. There are so many stories still left to tell, and we hope you'll be there to listen to them. But until next time, haha!